Hey folks, welcome. This is 108 Stitches, which is a mostly knitting video podcast. Sometimes I'll talk about some other crafting and other stuff that I'm up to. My last podcast episode was actually a good one for a little bit of different types of crafting if you're interested in that. But today is actually going to be a little bit of a non-traditional episode as well. I'm getting ahead of myself here. My name is Emily. I live in Seattle, Washington with my husband Nofis and our pup Norman. And I am not going to be actually going through my usual updates of my knitting finished objects and works in progress and stuff today. I have some exciting different things on the schedule for the video today. So I'm actually celebrating 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is mind-boggling and just unbelievable to me. I truly I don't know, I'm blown away that you all just want to listen to me talk about knitting. It's crazy to me, but I've just been reflecting so much and thinking back about my very first episode that I posted. And I remember I posted it and the next morning I checked and I saw that 20 people had watched and I was so happy. I don't know, I can't even, my brain is going faster than my words can speak. I think it's hard to be explicit and genuine and clear about my motivation for doing this and what I'm hoping to get out of it and how much all of this means to me. It's just putting those things into words is really difficult, but I guess I'll do my best to just say that I started this podcast for a couple of reasons. One was just because I love to talk about the things I'm making and cataloging that for myself, but also being able to share that with others was really appealing to me. I have gotten so much enjoyment myself out of watching people talk about their knitting and just so much inspiration as well. I feel seeing what other people make and hearing their joy and excitement makes me so excited about knitting and crafting, and so being able to share that with you all is definitely part of what makes this so special. So while a lot of it is just for myself, I think the fact that I get to share it with you all and that you guys are getting enjoyment out of it and following along and subscribing, but also engaging with me, commenting and messaging me, and I don't know, it's really exciting to me and I'm really happy. I'm just really happy that I'm doing this and it feels really good. So thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel. I cannot believe that there are 2,000 of you. That that number of people just doesn't even, my brain doesn't even comprehend that number of people properly. I don't know. It feels like a lot of people. So thank you for those of you that are subscribed. And so, yeah, today we're going to do something a little bit special. I mentioned on my last episode, if you watched, that I may not have enough normal, usual content to talk about today. I think that's definitely the case. If you remember, my family was in town. My brother and sister were both visiting over the last week or so. They actually left today. And so I didn't get a ton done. I worked some on my sweater that I've been working on, but I didn't knit a ton. And I do have I have some acquisitions. I have a new plant, that kind of stuff. And so I thought about maybe kind of doing a usual episode, but what I think I'm going to do is just hold off on that stuff, and I'll have even more to share next week. I'll have some acquisitions. Like I said, I have a new plant. We'll hopefully have even more sweater progress to share with you. So we'll do all of that next week. And then this week, we're going to do a giveaway, of course, because 2,000 subscribers is so exciting. So I definitely want to do a giveaway. And I had some stuff that I was excited to give away anyway. So we're going to do a giveaway, and then 2, I am doing a Q&A session. So I also talked about this a little bit last week. I talked about maybe doing a Q&A session because I may not have enough usual content to share with you all this week. I did not expect reaching 2,000 subscribers on YouTube by this week. I will just say, there was somewhat of an unexpected surge, and so I was not anticipating 2,000 subscribers. Not that, these things are difficult to predict anyway. Who knows how the internet works, but But anyway, I thought this was just too perfect. So for 2,000 subscribers today, we're gonna do a giveaway and I am gonna do a Q&A session. So I actually asked my Instagram followers, I put a little, in my stories, I put a little question box up. I got tons of really great and fun questions that I'm gonna just go through and answer. So no knitting today. I am just gonna be sitting here and answering questions. So anyway, let's start. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the giveaway. Let me pull it out here. I have a couple of things that I'm really excited to be sharing with one lucky winner. But so wow, first of all, just they go together so beautifully. I love this color. So I have two beautiful skeins of yarn to give away. The first, so this one is actually was gifted to me to give away from my friend who is part of the Woolberry collective, and I think I've talked about this before. She's actually gifted me some other yarn from the collective in the past, but yeah, she offered to give me this skein that I could give away. Partially also just like look at, I had to pair this with this because they just go together so beautifully. So the first one, this is Woolberry's Suri alpaca. It's their Berry Suri base, which is 74% Suri alpaca and 26% silk, and it's a lace weight yarn, and the colorway is Caterpillar in the Garden. And again, this is from their collective, so I don't think you can get this colorway. It's not, you know, something that they have available right now. And even if you're in the collective, I think it was from maybe March or April. So yeah, this is just a beautiful, like, light minty, sagey green color. It also has, I know Woolberry just redid their labels. I don't know if this will focus for me. There you go. So there's the label, and then the yarn is just so pretty. And then the second one is a skein of Stress Knits yarn that I bought. This was one of her advent colors that she had for sale in full skeins afterward, and I really loved it, and so I bought a skein of it. This is called Old Pine, and I still have the mini from, I did one of her smaller advent, like the 8-day, I think, or maybe it was a 12-day. But yes, I thought this was too beautiful with that skein of Suri. They just had to go together. But here's the Old Pine. Let me see if I can get it to focus. There we go. It's like a greenish, again, like bluey green, very light sagey color. And then this one has the most beautiful speckles, like brown. Oh, okay, actually, no, I'm definitely giving it away because it's too good with that other one, but it's so beautiful. It makes me want to keep it for myself, but I'm not. I already have a mini of it, so I will let some other lovely watcher, viewer have it, but it's so pretty. Look at those speckles. So anyway, these two together I think would make just like a perfect project together if you wanted to do like a hat or like a shawl or something. Let me try to get these all lined up. It's so pretty. The green. Oh my gosh. So beautiful. And then, in addition to the yarn, I'm also giving away a set of triangle stitch markers. So I talked about these. I just bought myself a set. These ones are sealed up, so I won't open them. Let me see if do I have mine nearby? My little bag that has all my like notions and stuff in it. Yeah, here are mine. So I showed these on a previous episode, I believe, but I'll show them again and hopefully not get them all over the place. I want to get some different colors to share too. Okay, so here are the stitch markers. It comes in a set. Let's see, it comes with 54 markers. That's a lot. 3 different sizes, and I think there's like maybe, well, I can't do the math that quickly. 4 of each size in each color. Does it say? 3 of each size and color. There are 6 colors, okay. So they have this like small size. This is not showing up great at all. Here, you can kind of see it. There's the small one, and then, did I get any of the medium? Yeah, here's the medium size. And then there's a large size as well. So you can use them for all different types of projects. I have really loved the triangles because you can really easily like stick your needle in them when you're passing them. And I think these earth tone colors are just so cute. I just really have enjoyed them. So I bought another set and I am going to give them away with the yarn. So unfortunately, I really hate this, but I'm gonna do only US and Canada for the giveaway because I did have an issue in the past. And I realized I never talked about this on the podcast. So just for transparency's sake, I'll talk about it a little bit now. My last giveaway, the winner was actually someone in Australia, and shipping things from the US to Australia is incredibly cost prohibitive right now, just like wildly expensive. And so I contacted the winner and we talked about it a little bit, and she was incredibly kind and said, why don't you just give it away to someone else. And I talked with her about giving her like a pattern or some other kind of like winning because she had been drawn as the winner last time. And so she was incredibly kind about it. I drew another winner and I contacted her, and she was also really kind and said, I explained to her the situation, and she was so kind and said, because she could tell I love the yarn so much, that she would rather I keep it than send it to her, which was just so kind. So I ended up, like, I still have the yarn from the previous giveaway, and so that is not my intent here. I'm not sharing this because I really do not want, like, I want to give the yarn away. That's the whole point of this. So, so definitely don't feel like because I'm sharing this story, if I contact you as the winner, that you should tell me to keep it, because you should not. I want to give it to you. So we're doing another giveaway. Because of the issues last time, I am going to limit it to the US and Canada. I'm so sorry about that. It's just too tough to ship some places right now. So we're going to do US and Canada, but please, I guess I have to tell you how to enter. So yeah, if you would like to enter the giveaway, please just comment on this post, like on this YouTube video, and let me know what your favorite thing is about yourself. This was actually a question that I got in the question box for the Q&A session today, and I'm going to answer it later, and we'll talk about what I like about myself. But it was a tough question for me to think about and for me to answer, but I loved it. I thought it was just a beautiful question. So I would love to hear from all of you. If you could comment below what your favorite thing is about yourself, and that will enter you to win this beautiful yarn and the Cocoknits Triangle Stitch Markers. And yeah, I don't know how long I'll leave it open. I will probably plan on closing it after a week. So by the time I record my next episode, I will pick a winner. So I guess that would be just under a week. Should we do 2 weeks? Maybe let's do 2 weeks. We'll leave it open for 2 weeks. So that would be, today is Tuesday, May 24th. So I will leave it open until, I'm going to record on June 7th. So it'll be open until June 7th, roughly. So yeah, definitely comment below what your favorite thing is about yourself, and if you're in the US or Canada, and I will send you some yarn. And if you're not from the US or Canada, you can still comment what your favorite thing is about yourself, and just maybe include in there a note that you're not entering, or if you get drawn, I'll contact you and then I'll pick another person, or so. I don't know. I clearly don't have this completely figured out. I don't know what I'm doing super well, but we'll figure it out. But that is the giveaway. So yeah, I'm excited to be giving this beautiful yarn away, and I'm excited to have 2,000 of you, over 2,000. We're at like 2020 something now. I'm just excited to have you all here with me. So yeah, that is the giveaway, and let's get into the questions because I actually have a lot and I feel a little bit chatty, so it may take a while to get through them all. So yes, let's get started. So I took all the questions I got and I split them into 3 categories. So we have 3 categories today. The first category is personal questions. So questions kind of about my life or about Seattle, about myself, just general kind of personal questions. The second section is math and baseball questions. So I got some questions about my time with the Mariners or about my baseball stuff in general, and also some questions about math because I have a couple of degrees in math and I'm a math person. And then the last and largest section is knitting and crafting questions for sure, which makes sense. And so I will do them in that order. We'll start with the personal questions. I'm going to start with the question that was by far the most common question. And I had several people ask me this question. I think maybe 3 or 4 people asked this. So under the personal section, the most popular question was, how did you and your husband meet? So my husband Nofis, who you guys may see more of on Instagram than on here. I talk about him a little bit. He is notorious for naming my sweaters weird things. That is, I think, his claim to fame here on the podcast. But yeah, we actually met in middle school. So we were both a part of this robotics club in middle school called Botball. We went to a school in Norman, Oklahoma. That's where we met. And yeah, we met at Botball, and then we were kind of friends and chatted at Botball and stuff and messaged back and forth, as you do when you're middle schoolers. And then we didn't actually start dating until high school. We just knew each other and were aware of each other before then and were friends and everything. But in high school we started dating. Nofis ended up actually going to a different school. So he went to OSSM, which is the Oklahoma School of Science and Math, which is a boarding school in Oklahoma City. And he went there for his junior and senior years, and I stayed in Norman. And so we actually started dating shortly before he left for boarding school. And then we would only really see each other on the weekends for 2 years, shortly after we started dating. And then after that, we ended up both going to the same college. So Nofis is 1 year older than me, so he was 1 year ahead of me in school. So he graduated from high school and went to the University of Oklahoma. So he came back to Norman, and I still had my senior year of high school. And then after that, we both were at OU. I guess, I don't know, I already told you how we met, but I might as well just give you the whole the whole journey of my relationship with Nofis. So yeah, he and I both went to the University of Oklahoma. Both of our families live in Norman as well. And then he finished school in, the summer of 2015. Is that right? No, summer of 2016, he finished college and moved to Seattle because he got a job with Microsoft. So that previous summer, he had interned. He is a software engineer, so he got a job at Microsoft, which is based in Redmond, Washington, which is close to Seattle. And he moved to Seattle, and then I had 1 more semester left of school, so I finished my degree in the December of 2016, and then I moved to Washington. And I guess I can keep filling you in on how this worked, but after I moved to Seattle, I started my master's degree, my grad degree at the University of Washington, and then after I graduated, we got married. So yeah, we have been together now since 2011, which is almost 11 years. Yeah, almost 11 years now. We've been together for 10 years, and we've been married for almost 4. Right? We got married in 2018. June 2018. Sorry, I'm looking because we have our wedding sign on the wall here. Oh, I kind of want to show it. maybe I'll include a picture here of our wedding sign that has like one of Nofis's friends in his bridal party actually painted this beautiful sign for us for our wedding, and we have it hanging on our wall in our house. So anyway, I'll probably include a picture here of the sign, but okay, wow, I need to go faster because if I'm going to get through all of these questions, I need to spend a lot less time on them. But anyway, long story short, we've been together for like 10 years. We started dating in high school. We met each other in middle school at robotics club. We actually went to, I will say, like this bot ball, this like robotics club had local, like regional competitions, but it also had what they call GSER, the global competition for educational robotics or whatever, that each summer would be like in a different location. And so we traveled and we actually started dating at the global conference, which was in LA, Los Angeles that year. And so we were spending a lot of time together at the robotics conference because we are absolute nerds. We are just total nerds. So, but that was in high school. So anyway, that is how me and my husband met. The next question is, how did you decide to plant your family in Seattle? Deciding where to settle isn't the easiest, and I definitely agree. I talked about this a little bit, but basically we ended up in Seattle because my husband got a job here, and so I knew that I wanted to be with him, and so I moved to Seattle. This was before we were married. I moved to Seattle, and I applied to grad school here so that I could be with him and also go to grad school. And then after grad school, Nofis was still like happy with his job here, and I wanted to, like, we liked it, so I wanted to stay in Seattle. So I applied for the job with the Mariners, and I very fortunately got to both stay in Seattle and work in baseball, which is what I wanted to do. I got very, very lucky in that I was accepted and got to work with the Mariners for 4 years. And during that time, I think we were pretty set on staying in Seattle just because that's where our jobs were. COVID changed things a little bit because now my husband, Nofis, he works almost full-time remote. He goes into the office very infrequently, but is largely still working from home. And I quit my job with the Mariners, so I'm no longer like, I have a job here. I work at the yarn store in Pulsbo, so I still am at least somewhat like geographically tied to this area, but we do seem to have like a little more flexibility than we have in the past. And I will just say, like, you know, this question included the comment that deciding where to settle isn't the easiest, and I completely agree. Just like, I get freaked out thinking about the fact that like I'm a whole like adult and I can just like decide where I want to live. Like I can just like make that choice to decide like where I want to be located, which is crazy. But I will say we really love this area. The only downside, I think, well, there are two like somewhat downsides I would say to living in the Seattle area. One is the cost, like how expensive it is. I know a lot of places are expensive, like the Bay Area and New York and whatever, like Los Angeles, all like really expensive places, but Seattle does feel like a really expensive place to live, so that's one downside. And then the other is the weather. I will say the weather in the summer, and like we're coming into the good season, is beautiful here. Truly, like we have had this last weekend, the weather was phenomenal, and I was like, why would I ever move away? It's so beautiful here. Like oh my gosh, my family, my like brother and sister will tell you that I could not stop saying how beautiful the weather was like the whole weekend. So, but that's really just the summer. So, you know, I would say roughly 9 months out of the year, it's pretty like cloudy and rainy, which, you know, isn't the best. And I think the weather affects me and my mood a lot. So, those are the downsides. Also, the other one is not specific to Seattle, but it's just that like we don't live close to family anymore. We live pretty far away from family now, and thinking about the future, that's something that's like pretty important to me, is living closer to family. So I guess I'm just saying I don't think we're tied to living in Seattle forever, but I do think that we really love it, and we've stayed here for a variety of like logistical and just like, you know, that we love it reasons. I don't know. That didn't make sense, but okay, that was question 2. I gotta get going. Next question is, headed to Mount Rainier and North Cascades. Any moderate hiking recs, especially for North Cascades? I probably could have just like answered this person specifically. I don't know if anyone else has this question, but I will just say quickly, our favorite hike at Mount Rainier was the Skyline Trail, which is, I think, one of the most popular ones. It is a really great, just like view of the mountain. It's like, if you see the Mount Rainier posters, I feel like they're normally, like, that's where they are. Going in the summer is great because there are wildflowers as well. So we went in, I think, like July. I got super sunburnt. I remember the back of my legs were so sunburnt that I had to call in, like, sick the next day to work because I could not, like, walk because my legs were so sunburnt. So be careful with your sun protection. I did apply sunscreen. I just did not reapply that day. So Skyline Trail is our favorite at Mount Rainier, and the North Cascades we haven't done a ton. We just went for a weekend trip, so we've only done, I think, like 2 or 3 trails, maybe only 2 trails there at North Cascades, but our favorite by far was Maple Pass. It was our second choice. We were going to do the Cascade Pass Trail or Cascade Loop, or I don't remember the wording exactly. It's like the big popular one. But we couldn't because the road to the trailhead was actually closed due to wildfires when we went. We went last September, I believe. So unfortunately we couldn't do the trail we intended to, so we did Maple Pass instead. This is the trail, if you have watched my past episode, this is the trail where I met Joji Locatelli, who, if you do not know, is a very popular and famous knitwear designer. I have knit several of her designs, and I talked to her, and it was great. So aside from meeting Joji, that trail was also amazing. I don't know, it's hard for me to know exactly like kind of what qualifies as moderate. Maple Pass may be a little bit, a touch on the intense side for a moderate hike. It's a little bit maybe, like it was long. I think it was like 7.5. I think my watch ended up saying it was like almost 9 miles, but it may have been running a little hot. I don't know. But it's at least 7.5 miles, and there's quite a bit of elevation. So I don't know what your kind of definition is, but Maple Pass we loved. It was incredible views and just a really fun hike as well. It rained for part of it, and we didn't even hate that. So, okay, quickly, what is your favorite board game and why? I love to play board games. I've talked about it, I think, just a little bit on the podcast before, but I love co-op games. I like to remove the competition aspect and have everyone play together. I also love puzzles, so maybe it's just like my math brain or whatever, but I really love puzzles. So there are a couple that I really like. It was hard to narrow down to like one specific game. I know this is probably an unpopular one right now given the current state of our world, but I do really like Pandemic. It's a very fun co-op game wherein, if you're unfamiliar, there is like these different types of like pandemics or like illnesses or viruses or whatever that are represented by different colors, and they kind of like spread across the country, and you and your friends are have different roles, and you have to go and like eliminate the virus and cure it and everything. Feels very fun, puzzly, and it's just like co-op, so I like that. Another co-op one we played that I really like is Mysterium. That one is, there's like one person who is giving clues based on these like pictures, and the rest of the people have to figure out like which pictures they're talking about. And that one is really fun too. And the art is really pretty for that one. So Mysterium. And then aside from co-op games, there's one we've been playing a little more. We actually got it as a gift from my sister and her boyfriend Jack. We got as a gift from them that we've been playing recently. I'd played it before, but I really like it, and I think it's pretty too. And a fun puzzle is Azul. That's a really fun one too, that you should check out if you like board games. So those are probably some of my favorites. It's hard for me to say exactly, like definitely those are my favorite games, but those are at least some that I like. Hi, this, you may notice, it looks a little different. This is actually Wednesday, the following day from when the rest of the video was recorded. When I was putting the video together, I realized that my answer to one question had been lost, and I really liked that question, and I wanted to make sure that it was included in the video. So I am just like recording a very short little bit just to answer that one question, and I'll paste it in here. So let me pull up the question really quick. The question is, what is the biggest change you've noticed in/about yourself since changing jobs? I thought this was a really good question. I think about this a lot. I reflect a lot on like just whether it was the right choice, and I definitely don't have any regret. I would say I think I definitely have more energy, and maybe, I don't know, like it's a different type of energy because now the job I do now, especially like when I go to the store, when I go to La Mercerie, those are really long days for me because I have a long commute, and I am like on my feet a lot more and doing physical work a lot more, like packing orders or just walking around, talking to customers, that kind of thing. And so I guess I definitely am tired on those days, and that's definitely like an exhausting kind of part of the job. But I guess what I mean more is just that I don't have that almost like mental or emotional exhaustion that I had a ton with my previous job with the Mariners. I think I was just, I was tired a lot from like stress, and by the end of the day I was exhausted from like mental energy, but also just like, I don't know, sometimes like some negativity that like was really stressful and tiring and exhausting for me. And so I do feel like I have more energy now. I wouldn't say that like, you know, my mental health altogether is like healed and I'm not anxious anymore or anything. And I'm not saying that I kind of expected that, but I do think that the most noticeable thing for me is that my energy feels like, I feel at the end of my day, I feel like I still have energy to give to the other things in my life, and that is like a really positive change for me. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. Next question is actually the last question in the personal section, which is the question that I posed to all of you, which is, what is your favorite thing about yourself? So this is, I think, just such a really nice and also a very difficult question to answer, but I will say I think my answer is that I reflect a lot. I think I am pretty thoughtful in the way that I approach everything. I think a lot about the people and things in my life very extremely thoroughly, and like all the experiences that I have, I spend a lot of time like thinking back about how they went and what was my favorite thing and what did I like about it and what would I do differently next time, and like that, I guess I do a lot. And I also like ask those questions of the people in my life as well. My husband Noftis would probably tell you that he's tired of being asked all the time what his favorite ex was or like what he thought about why or whatever. I ask him a lot. We do a lot of reflecting, and I do actually think a lot of this manifests for me in like as anxiety, and so I don't necessarily love that about myself a ton, but I do think the just like reflecting a lot and thinking about things really carefully does make me pretty well equipped to just like learn and grow from all my experiences, and I do really like that about myself. So yeah, I guess that is my answer, and I'm really curious to hear from you all what y'all's favorite things are about yourselves. So that is the end of the personal section. The next section is the math and baseball section, and the first question there is the thing you miss most from math in school. So I kind of have multiple answers, and honestly, I guess side note here, if you watched or if you read my little intro from like at La Mercerie on their Instagram account, that's the yarn shop I work at, I don't think I gave like a single answer for most of them. Most of them I was just like, I can't decide, here are multiple answers. So I think that's a theme for me, is just not indecision as much as just like thinking about it thoroughly and having a lot of thoughts and answers, which I guess ties in pretty well to my answer to the last question. But anyway, what do I miss most from math in school? So a couple things. One, I really liked the community of working on problems together with other classmates. So just like everyone was working kind of on the same problems, and like I think a lot of times it was more isolated because it was like, you know, homework or exams that were supposed to be done independently. But anytime that we were like working together, I really liked working together with other folks on the same questions, like trying to answer the same questions. And I think that when I worked in a more technical capacity, while I like worked a ton with my coworkers and had good support there, I think it was just a little isolating to see like, okay, these are my problems that I tackle, and then someone else has different problems that they tackle, and someone else has different, you know what I mean? And so just like not having that kind of like, we're all working on the same problems, I think was one thing that I miss from math in school. The other was definitely, I actually was talking about this question with an office, and the first thing he said, which I completely agree with, is that there was always a right answer in school. It's very nice to have like set just like questions and answers and boundaries, and like everything is set up very nice and cleanly. So I certainly missed that from school. Every time you were trying to answer a question, you knew that there was a clear and like direct and explicit answer. And that is not the case in the real life, and when you're doing math like as a job, there's not always like a clear answer, and sometimes you have to make judgment calls, and sometimes, yeah, I don't know, it's just, I miss that for sure. But I'm not doing as much math. I mean, I guess I do math for like pattern grading and stuff, but I don't do math in the same way as I did even just a couple months ago. So we'll see. Maybe my answer will change in a little bit after I'm farther removed from doing technical work regularly. Next question was, what was your favorite math class ever? So my favorite math class I took in college, took two that were in a similar series with the same professor. It was the Abstract Algebra series. So I took Abstract Algebra 1 and 2, and they were my favorite classes in college pretty easily, by far. Partially, I think, just because of the structure of the class and the professor and the way that the class was set up. I also ended up like doing research with and working with that professor later on, and that was really fun. But I will say, just I think that was a pretty like proof-heavy class. If you're unfamiliar with like advanced math, once you get to a certain point, a lot of the problems that you're solving are like you have these mathematical questions that you have to like basically it's like a puzzle you have to solve. You have to prove whether something is like true or not, prove that two things are equal, prove that this thing is bigger than this thing, prove that, you know, all kinds of proofs are what they're called. And so that one was like a very proof-heavy class, and it was focused on a lot of like number and set theory, which again, if you're not in advanced math, you don't know what these things mean, and I'm sorry for talking about them, but this class was really fun because of that. But it was also just the structure of the class was really heavily influenced by inquiry-based learning, which if you're not into like education, advanced education theory, then you may not know about this either, but it's just a really cool structure of the class where we were kind of like, as a group, as a class, we were evolving and like even just kind of like with little, okay, with quite a bit of guidance, but just like less direction. It's not as much like, okay, our professor sat down and told us like, these are the theorems that you need to know, and this is how you do this proof, and this is whatever. It was much more like loose and self-guided. So the class as a whole would work together, and like in our classroom settings, we would derive theorems and like have conjectures and you know, take the class in different directions or whatever. And so our professor always kept us on track, but it was just like a really cool way to learn. And it also resulted in some of the like coolest math work that I've done. The professor like really prioritized and like encouraged us to think of like our mistakes as productive failure, is what he called it, and that's actually the research I did with him and resulted in a paper, which was really fun. Yeah, that concept of just like, even when you're not getting the right answer, that's still like productive, and taking time to like incubate is also another part of that class. That was really important, just like incubation time. So like, especially for proofs, reading through the proof, understanding like the starting point and the ending point, and letting it just kind of like sit in your brain, even absent-mindedly, while you're like doing other tasks, was like a really cool thing that I learned from that class as well. So I don't know, more so than the math itself, which like I probably couldn't even do anymore. Like I'm so far removed from it, I probably couldn't do those proofs anymore. I don't remember the theorems. I don't remember the mathematical properties. But I learned a lot from that class that is just about like how to solve problems and like how to think about things. And so that's why it's my favorite. So sorry, that could have been a shorter answer, but anyway. Next question. Are you still a Mariners fan, or do you have a home team that you root for? Yes, I am still a Mariners fan. I'm definitely still a Mariners fan. We still live in Seattle. We actually haven't gone to any games other than opening day, but we are planning to, hopefully this week, go to more games. And I am very closely following the team. We've been watching a lot of games. The season is not going as you might hope for the Mariners. But I will say also it's been really exciting for me. We actually signed this player, Julio Rodriguez, when I was with the team. And he was always just like a favorite of mine. He's just, I think he's a lot of people's favorite, or like people love him because he's just like a very genuine and charismatic person in addition to being like an incredible baseball player. But he made his debut this season and has been playing really well recently. And that has been a story that I've been just like really loving to follow and has been a bright spot for me for the Mariners this season. So definitely I'm still a Mariners fan, but I will say in addition to being a Mariners fan, I grew up watching the St. Louis Cardinals because my dad and his family is from that area. And when I was working for the Mariners the last several years, I've been following the Cardinals less and less just because my job was baseball. And so I was really just like engaged in baseball all day, specifically Mariners baseball. And so when my day was done and my work was done, I wasn't necessarily finding myself being really drawn to I guess, just thinking more and talking more and watching more baseball. I still watched it a ton, I guess, but I had definitely slowed down on my consumption of the Cardinals specifically, and I am back doing that a lot more this season. So I would say definitely still a Mariners fan, but in addition, I have come back to following it's not my hometown, but just like my original kind of like fandom, my Cardinals fandom. I've come back to a little bit more this year, and they are having a pretty productive season. So that has been fun to engage with. And it's been fun also following along, and like that's a really great way for me to connect with my dad as well, because he's a huge baseball fan. So I love that. So and then the last question in this section is, do you miss the Mariners and getting to be so close to the show all the time? The show as in like MLB. It's like a baseball term. It's like the show. Yes, there are definitely things that I miss. I wouldn't say that I like regret it or anything, but there are still things that I miss about it. I think the two things I miss the most are being at the stadium and the friends that I worked with. So being at the stadium is just a really cool experience, and it makes me feel just like a lot of joy and nostalgia being there, and just being so close to the game is really fun. So I definitely miss that. And then my coworkers that I worked with and became friends with over time, I miss them too. I've still been in good contact with a lot of them, which has been really great because I still live in Seattle, so I can still see them and talk to them and everything. So that's been really good. But yeah, there are definitely things I miss. So yeah, that is the math and baseball section. And the last section, let me scroll up here, is the knitting section. So this is probably the most interesting and fun one for you all. So yeah, let's just go into it. The first question is, how did you start knitting and what was your first project? So really interesting, actually. I think I have a pretty non-traditional start to my knitting journey. So I actually learned from a friend in high school. Sorry, my shirt is kind of coming uncuffed here. I learned from a friend in high school. So my friend in her Spanish class, someone came in and taught them how to knit. I guess it was just like an activity. I don't know why or how, but high school Spanish class, the teacher had someone come in and teach them how to knit. And my friend like told me about it and like showed me how to knit like at lunch or something. showed me how to do it. And that day I was like, oh, I'm into this. Like, I definitely want to do this. So after school, I went to the grocery store. I think I went to Walmart, and I bought this bright orange yarn, and I bought some knitting needles, just like some cheap metal knitting needles, and I decided that I was going to knit Nofis a scarf. So at this point, I was dating Nofis, and I decided the first project I was going to do was I was going to knit him a scarf. So I did that with this bright orange yarn. And I made him what we refer to as the traffic cone orange scarf. And it's just plain garter stitch. And I'll show you, you can see the beginning is much worse than the end. Here's the beginning. I don't know if you can even like register this color. It's so bright. But you can see it's like kind of bad and messed up and lumpy, and then by the end I got a lot better. I got a lot better at it, and my stitches are much more even by this point. I did not know how to weave an end, so I just left them, and of course I have since learned how to weave ends in, and I still have not gone back and woven the ends in on the scarf. I think it has a special charm to it to not have the ends woven in. But I gave this to Nofis, and he wore the heck out of it. He wore it a lot. I don't understand why. This color is crazy. I got orange because orange is his favorite color. But he would always wear it like this, bring it around and kind of tuck it like this, and then put it underneath his jacket. And this is, I don't even remember the brand of yarn. It's like, 100% acrylic grocery store yarn. But it's certainly served me well here. And yeah, that is my first project. He doesn't wear this anymore. I've made him better scarves since then, but that was the first one. Next question, do I knit continental or English? So for those of you who do not know what those terms mean, English, well, I can show you, I guess, kind of, well, I don't know, this may be mirrored, so this may be kind of weird, but, oh, by the way, sneak peek of my project. If you all watched the last episode, I did say I wanted to be finished with the body by this week, and I am not. I made some progress, but... Okay, so if you knit English, you hold the yarn in your right hand, and this is also, people call it wrapper, like wrappers. No. Like, people sometimes ask if you wrap or if you pick, but wrapping, so knitting English is when you hold the yarn in your right hand and you kind of like bring it around and pull it through. So then you like, oh, I'm purling. I forgot that with knitting English you have to bring the yarn to the front, and then, yeah, you put your needle through, wrap it around, and pull back. So I know you guys can't see close up, like, what's going on here, but basically the point is with English you hold the yarn in your right hand. With continental you hold the yarn in your left hand, and you hold it kind of like tensioned in between your fingers, and you hold it behind the work, and then you stick your needle through and kind of just pick it from the back. That's why it's called picking. You just kind of grab the yarn from behind the project and you're holding it in your left hand behind the project. You can definitely find more information about this if you're unfamiliar. You can find more information about the different ways of knitting or whatever on like YouTube videos online and stuff. I'm not going to take the time to like try to set up the camera to do a good close-up now. But for me personally, I actually learned English. I learned by wrapping and holding it with my right hand. And then when I was in college, I worked at a yarn store in Norman, Oklahoma. And one of my coworkers noticed that I was knitting that way, and I saw he was so fast. He knit incredibly fast. And he knit a different way than I did, and I ended up, I don't remember if if I asked him to teach me or whatever, but he taught me how to knit continental so that I could knit faster. And I decided, I was working on a hat for an office at that point. I was doing a 1x1 ribbed hat, and I decided I was going to knit the whole thing continental. I think I don't remember if I worked on anything else. I think at that point in my life I was only working on one project at a time. But I was like, okay, Emily, you knit this whole hat continental, and if you hate it by the end, you go back to English. Because at the beginning it's like really difficult. if you're used to something, it's easy to want to go back to it. And like, you know, it's hard to get the tension right, and my hands hurt so much at the beginning because I was just like holding so much tension in my hands. And anyway, I decided that I was going to just knit that whole hat continental, and by the end, if I hated it, then I would go back. And by the end, I was hooked. I loved it. I was so much faster. And it was tough at the beginning, but I think setting that, like, you knit this project, do it with continental, and it was good to have a project that had both knits and purls in it, because I think I wanted to be able to get comfortable with both of those. So yeah, I did it, and then now I knit continental, 100%. I know how to knit English still, so I'm kind of glad that I started knitting English because I'm comfortable. I can do both. I mean, I'm not that comfortable knitting English anymore because I switched to continental within like a year or two of learning how to knit. So like I've been knitting continental for the last like 10 years, 8 years or so, I don't know. But anyway, yep. Next question. Oh, I will say also, someone asked me at some point, they said, or maybe, I don't remember if it was a comment or a DM on Instagram or something, someone asked if they could like see me knit. They were like, we never see you knit. So I guess I'm doing half fisherman's rib right now, so I kind of have to look a little bit, but I'll knit for a second so that you guys can see. This is what it looks like when I knit. I have a video, I think it was in one of my Vlogmas videos, and I think I posted it on Instagram as well, of me knitting while Nafis reads to me. It is sped up, so it's not a perfect, accurate representation of how I knit, but this is it. This is how I knit. So you can watch if you want to, and you can, everyone does it different ways. It's slightly different for everyone, but I found a way that works well for me. So this is how I knit. Okay, I can stop that so that I can read my questions and focus a little bit better. I kind of need some water. I'm gonna go grab that. Okay, I got some water. Next up, what is your favorite weight of yarn to knit with? I think sport weight is my favorite. It's almost like a Goldilocks and the Three Bears type situation here, where I feel like, I mean, I know there are things much heavier, but I think the ones that I commonly work with are like fingering weight and DK weight. And DK weight is like a touch heavier than I love, and fingering weight is a touch lighter than I love. And I know not a lot of patterns are written for sport weight, but I really like working the sport weight yarn. That's what this project is. This yarn is sport weight, and I actually really like it. So I think sport weight. Next question, what's your favorite knitting texture to wear and to knit? This one was tough. I have two that are far and away my favorite, and it is stockinette and like a brioche fisherman's rib. And I think it just depends, both for wearing and for knitting. I like them both. If I want something that's like super easy, then stockinette is just so natural, and I love to knit it. I love to not have to look. I love to be able to watch movies or TV and talk to friends or whatever. It's just like so portable too, so stockinette's great for that. And I also like to wear stockinette because it's just like really simple and easy and like super wearable. I also really love brioche or fisherman's rib. I do think that knitting it, there's like a really nice smooth rhythm to it as well. So I like knitting it, and I think the fabric is just beautiful. I don't know that it says like flattering. Maybe it is. I don't know. I like the way the fabric looks as well. And it's just like a really beautiful squishy fabric too. So I would say stockinette and brioche are like head to head. Is that the same? They're very close for me, stockinette and brioche. Okay, next question was my dream knitting. So I have lots of dream knitting. I'm constantly thinking about things that I want to knit in the future, and I know that I'm never gonna like get to the point where I've knit all the things I wanted to, which is good, that I will never run out. So I have talked in the past about how I'm hoping to knit a sweater every month this year, and I have most of those sweaters planned out. So I talked about this, I think, one of my first episodes this year, I talked about all the sweater quantities I have and my tentative plans for a lot of them. So you can go back and watch that if you want more info about some of the sweaters I have planned. So at the top of my list, the poetry sweater just came out by Sari Nordlund, and I really want to knit that. I want to knit another oversized seasons cardigan by Ozetta. I want to knit the cottage cardigan by Jacqueline Cieslak. That one came out this year. I also want to knit the Miles shirt jacket by Ozetta. That one also came out recently, and I just got some yarn, that would go really well with it. So all of those are like on my short list of sweaters coming up. The big dreams I have are a lot of them related to designing, so things that I'm excited to design and knit. I have my dad's sweater is very top of my list. That's like my biggest dream is knitting that sweater and writing that pattern. And that one I've talked about a little bit in the past, but I'm basically just taking a sweater, like a basic Land's End. What is the set-in sleeve? Sorry, I lost words for a second. Taking a basic set-in sleeve sweater from Land's End that my dad wore a ton, and writing a pattern and knitting a sweater for it. So that is a big dream of mine. I also am very excited to be doing an advent design this year. It's a little bit of a, sorry, Norman is making noises. Yes, I am designing an advent pattern in collaboration with Paisley Knits. So if you haven't checked her out, you should definitely check out her yarn. It's beautiful, and the inspiration photos are beautiful. It's going to be a fade, and she's actually doing a DK weight advent with 50-gram skeins, so 12 50-gram skeins rather than smaller fingering weight ones. And I am going to be designing a pattern for that, and that is a huge dream. Just like doing advent designing and collaborating with another yarn dyer is just so exciting to me. So that's a big dream of mine. Yeah, I don't know. I think those are top of my list for my dreams. Next question was, do you have any plans to revisit the Madewell inspired sweater you had plans for a while back? So those of you who have not been watching for a while, I saw this Madewell sweater. I can put a picture of it up again. I've put this picture up so many times. I saw this Madewell sweater as like an ad on Instagram, and I really liked it, and I wanted to knit my own, and I will not go through all of it here, but I've had quite a journey with that sweater. Ups and downs with it, and I've kind of abandoned it for now. I guess the short answer is no, I don't have immediate plans to do an exact dupe. I do have plans for that yarn, and it is a somewhat similar sweater. I have a design idea that I'd really like to use that yarn for. I don't know if I'll make it by the end of this year, so it'll probably be next year that I work on and release that pattern. But I do have a plan for that yarn, and it will be somewhat similar, but it will not be my original kind of like intended dupe of that sweater. So, yeah. My next question here is my top 3 favorite shawls I've ever knit, and please show them on the podcast. Yes, I'm happy to. So, I haven't knit that many shawls. I think maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe like 7 or 8 shawls. I don't know. But I picked 3 that are my favorite. One of them I actually don't have with me, so I'll talk about that one first. I really liked knitting the Poet Shawl by Sari Nordlund. It is a beautiful lace pattern. The Poet just like lace pattern is on several of her designs. I've done the socks, I've done the shawl. I'm hoping to do one of her poet sweater, the poetry sweater I just talked about. And I knit that shawl out of a, it was my first time knitting with Brooklyn Tweed. It was Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, I believe, in the Iceberg color, which is a beautiful light blue. And I knit this shawl and ended up giving it to my Grammy because I didn't know that I was going to wear it a ton, and she said she'd love it, and so I sent it to her, and I think maybe that's part of the reason I love this shawl so much. I just am so happy with where it ended up, and that she has it and she loves it. So every time I have gone to my Grammy's house since then, I've seen it on the back of her chair, and she said she wraps up in it most days. So yeah, that one I just think is beautiful, and it's massive, and just felt like such an accomplishment to finish it. And I'm just so happy that my Grammy has it now. So the Poet Shawl, The other two I do have with me. One is just a shawl that I wear a ton and is so squishy. I love the DK weight shawl, and I love brioche. I talked about that before. And that is the Plumpy shawl by Andrea Mowry. And it is these alternating sections with 2-color brioche and striped garter stitch. And it's just so pretty. I guess not all the garter stitch is striped. Only some of the garter sections are striped, but I love this shawl and I wear it a ton in the fall. I think it's beautiful colors. The yarn is Earl Grey Fiber Company in their Oolong DK base, and I don't know if you can see the blue super well. I don't know if the colors are showing up really well here, but the colors I used 4 colors. I think I have them written here. I used Peppered, Fjord, Needle, and Stay Gold. These are very much my colors. I love like golden yellow. I love like a dark teal. I love gray. I love cream. Like speckledy white is great. So yeah, this is the Plumpy shawl. And this is really, I think this is my favorite one to wear when I really need to be warm. Like this is a really good, like super warm and squishy shawl. And then my last of my 3 favorite shawls is my most recently knit shawl, and it is a much nicer, lighter weight shawl, and it is the Briochealicious, also by Andrea Mowry. I love a good brioche shawl. This one, I think what makes me love it the most is the color. I think these colors are just so beautiful, and I'm so inspired by them. These are absolutely very much my colors. The yarn is Purl, Soho, Linen, Quill. The main color is Honey Pink, and then the contrast colors are from top to bottom Turmeric Yellow, Chestnut Red, and Vintage Celadon. And I loved working with this yarn. I love the way it feels. I love that this is a little bit lighter weight of a shawl. The colors are just so good. The colors are so good. And yeah, this is the one I've definitely been wearing the most recently, I think just because it was my most recent knit, but I love it. So those are my 3 favorite shawls that I've knit. Next up, oh, and this is my last question. So we did okay, I think, on time. Maybe it wasn't too long. But the last question I have that I will answer, actually, wait, my camera's going to cut me off, so let me come back. Okay, the last question is, any advice for getting over camera shyness to start a podcast? I don't feel like I have great advice, because I don't know that I have anything that's like super unique to say. I would say this is probably the same advice you'd get from most people, but it's to just go for it. I think practice is absolutely the thing that helps the most. Maybe even if you recorded and you didn't plan on posting it, like maybe if you recorded a podcast knowing that you weren't going to post it, because then maybe you'd be a little bit more comfortable and you wouldn't be as nervous, but that would still give you the opportunity to practice like sitting, getting everything set up and sitting in front of the camera and everything. Maybe that would be worth it. I definitely feel like I was more awkward and less comfortable at the beginning because it's just something that takes getting used to. But really quickly, I think I got over that, and now it just feels really natural. I know that like you all will say to me that when you watch this, it feels like you're just like sitting down and chatting with a friend, and it really feels like that to me too. I mean, I know no one is like talking back to me, but it does feel like I'm just sitting down and I'm like telling my friends about what I've been working on, which, I don't know, is just like very fun and low stress. So I think anything you can do to like make it feel like that for you, make it just feel like you're sitting down and you're chatting with a friend, whether that be like making your setup really comfortable, making sure you have like water or tea or something, coffee nearby, so that it feels really casual, or like maybe you're recording on your phone if you're more comfortable with that rather than having the whole like camera setup. I'm not sure, but I do think just practice, just give it a go. And yeah, I mean, I think it's good for me too to remember that like recording it does not mean you have to put it out on the internet for everyone to see. So like, I don't know if you're going to choose to edit or whatever, but if you record something and you don't like it, you don't have to post it. You don't have to put it up there. And so just being really gentle with yourself and making sure that like you're comfortable with everything at every step, and knowing that like no matter what happens, if you don't like it, you don't have to post it. And I think that'll kind of maybe ease the stress a little bit. So I don't know if I answered your question super well, but that is the advice I would have. And also just go for it because everyone has been so kind. And I know it seems like when I started, I thought so much like, okay, you know, it's a saturated market or whatever. There's like so many people who do knitting podcasts and, you know, there's no need for me here. And like, even if there isn't like a specific need, you'll still find people that will get enjoyment out of what you have to share. And that's enough for me. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be this big thing where like everyone wants to watch or whatever. It can just be like, hey, you found me and I'm glad you did. And I'm glad I can sit and chat with you. And if that makes your day a little bit better, then like that's great for me. That sounds good to me. Like that's all I need. So anyway, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but that was my last question I had to answer. So thank you so much to those of you that sat down and listened to this, and a huge thank you to the people who asked questions. Like, thank you so much. We wouldn't have had this if you all hadn't. I was nervous that no one would ask questions because I didn't know if, like, I don't know, I had anything interesting or noteworthy to say. But I really appreciate you all for asking questions, and yeah, I think this was really fun. So maybe I'll do this again sometime. Maybe if I ever have 3,000 subscribers, I'll do another Q&A session. But make sure, if you haven't already, make sure that you comment and enter the giveaway for these beautiful yarns. And otherwise, I think that's all I have for today. I will definitely be back next week to regularly scheduled podcast content. I will hopefully have some sweater updates for you. I will have some acquisitions for sure. And I will have to tell you how it was with my family visiting and like what we got up to and all that. So Norman is up. Norman, do you want to come say hi? No. I feel bad for teasing you all with that. But he does not look like he wants to say hi today. Maybe next time. So, okay, that's all I have. I hope you do lots of knitting and watch lots of baseball and have an excellent week. I will talk to you next time. Bye.